just want to say thank you to Colin, who is my lovely husband, for doing that introduction and letting you guys know, inviting you in, and let you know a little bit about me. I can see that we've got Victoria on and we've got Barry. Thank you for joining, both of you. If you can, and if you have any questions as we go through, of course, just put them in the chat box. Let me know if you're not familiar with Zoom, and you can unmute yourself if you want, if you have any issues with putting anything in the chat. So we're gonna get started. So I've got some slides I'm gonna be sharing with you, and we're gonna be running through those. So I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay. So we're just going to start with asking whether or not this sounds like you. So if you're on this webinar, you know that we are talking about 4 simple steps to finding work that you love beyond motherhood, because that's the area that I talk about. But a lot of the principles we're going to talk about today will be applicable whether you are a mother or not. And so if you don't fall within that category, then you're still going to find some really useful information that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So I'm going to run through these because these might be things that you resonate with. So you've worked hard to get to where you are in your career and you're wondering what is next for you. You're someone who is ambitious and has dreams of doing great things in your career, or you are a mother to 1 or more amazing little humans that mean the world to you and you want to do your best by them. You're considering how you can manage both motherhood and your career well, and you are overwhelmed with trying to figure out the working mum puzzle and would just like a clear path. So if any of those sound like you, or you resonate with any of those, then you are definitely in the right place. And we're going to be diving into some simple steps that you can take in this webinar this evening. So Colin shared with you a bit about my background, but when I was quite young, I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer, and I followed the path that I needed to take to become a lawyer. So I did all the research, I figured out the grades I needed to get and where I needed to go, and I pursued that path. But there were 2 kind of pivotal moments that shifted my thinking around where I wanted to be in my career and made me realize that perhaps I wasn't loving the work that I was doing, and sent me on a journey to figure out how I could really enjoy my work, because I figured that you spend most of your time working or in employment or self-employed, however it is you earn money, but you spend most of your time doing that. And so why spend that time in a way that isn't good for you, or in a way that makes you feel miserable? And so I wanted to figure out a way that I could find work that I love. So I want to share with you the 2 pivotal moments that changed things for me. So the first was a trip to Africa. So I went on a mission trip quite early on in my career. I had the opportunity to go to Africa for a few weeks. I spent some time in Kenya and Rwanda, and got the chance to use my legal skills to really help people on the ground. So we educated people in local villages. We went into prisons and told people about their rights, so that they could have better access to justice. So it was an amazing experience. And this is just a picture of me in the village with some of the other lawyers who were helping educate some of these people on child protection rights, and we also helped a widow with fixing parts of their house. It was just really impactful work, and when I came back I realized that whilst I enjoyed being a corporate lawyer, I really wanted to do something to be helping people on more of a personal level. Having gone through seeing how I could make an impact in a short space of time, I wanted to figure out how I could do that more. And so that led me down the route of coaching, and I trained as a coach alongside my legal career. And it wasn't until I had my son, and this is a picture of him when he was about 18 months old, he's now 3.5, that I took some time out, because I was on maternity leave, to really figure out what I wanted to do with the coaching side of things. And that's when I started to build up my coaching practice while I was on maternity leave. And I was looking around and recognizing that there was a lot of women like me who had worked really hard to get to where they are in their career, but then were struggling to figure out, well, what next? What do I do next? I don't want to throw it away, but things need to look a bit different now that I'm a mum. And so that's why I decided to focus my energies on that particular area, and that's why I've been working with women and coaching them around making the transition back to work, or helping them to figure out what else they could do, and helping them to figure out what it is they really want to do. so that they feel fulfilled. So I've run workshops with groups of women. I've done one-to-one coaching, and I also have a membership community, which I'm going to share more with you about towards the end of this webinar. So I just want to encourage you that if you have any questions as we go through, I'm happy to answer them. So just type them in the chat box as we go through the presentation, because we're about to jump into the 4 steps, the simple steps that I want to share with you. So these are the steps that I went through to get clarity around what it is I really wanted to do in my career, and the steps that I take my clients through as well. So my goal really is to help you to get unstuck if you're feeling stuck, and to help you to have a formula that you can follow, that's going to help you to get to the place where you're feeling fulfilled in the work that you're doing. And I want to help you to find, and if you can't find it and you recognize that actually going into a role isn't really what you want to do, then I want to help you to figure out how you create the work that you love. So whether you're going back into the corporate world, or you're switching focus within the corporate world, or you've decided to start your own business, these steps are going to apply to you in terms of making sure that what you're doing is leading to career fulfillment for you. So what makes this different in terms of this presentation and my background, and why I'm the person, why I should be somebody who could share on this? As I said before, I'm a mum, so these are my 2 little ones, and I have been navigating the waters of having 2 young children, and being a mum, and continuing my career as a lawyer, and then also my background as a coach. So blending those all together has allowed me to come to some realizations that I think are really useful, and that my clients find really useful. So we're going to go through the step-by-step formula, and I'm somebody who likes to take complex things and make them simple. So hopefully you'll see that these are simple steps. They're not necessarily easy steps, but they're simple steps that you can definitely follow. And I've connected with many mums through my work with them, and also through my podcast. I have a weekly podcast, so I interview lots of different women, and I'm always speaking to different women about their experiences as well. So in my work so far, I've recognized that it is possible for women to work in a way that works for them and their families, and that there are so many more roles available than people realize, because there is a hidden job market. People often, when they're looking for a role, the first thing they'll do is go and look on a job board. And if you are someone who's looking for part-time work or flexible working, then that might be a challenge, because a lot of those roles are not necessarily advertised. And so I recognize that people get discouraged when they go and they search and they put in part-time in whatever industry they're in, and don't see that there's anything there, and then they think that it's not possible, when it actually is possible to find a role. But you have to be strategic about your search and approach it in a different way, and we're going to talk about that when we get to step 4 of the process. So some people are taking the hard route, so they're struggling to negotiate the right kind of flexibility with their current employer, or they are going to job boards and scrolling and looking for the part-time opportunities and not finding them. And some are putting off career decisions for a later date, so they know that they're not feeling fulfilled, or they know that this isn't quite the right fit for them, but instead of them tackling that and looking for alternatives, they put it off, and then can find themselves 1 year, 2 years down the line, and still in pretty much the same position. So what I've really discovered when I've been looking at the data and looking at the conversations that I have with people and feedback that I get, is that ambitious mums fall into two categories, really. So the first are the ones who hope for the best. So they know that they're not in a position that they really want to be in, but they think, well, I'll stay where I am and hopefully things will work out. And then the second are the ones who are action takers. So they recognize that they're not where they want to be, and they want to get to where they want to be. And so they take some action, and they do the things that they need to do in order for them to change the situation that they're in. So I just want to share a bit about this person with you, and she's an action taker. So this is somebody called Nicola, and she is one of my previous clients and a member of my membership community. And she came to me a while ago when I met her at an exhibit that I was exhibiting at, and she was feeling stuck. So she's an accountant. She'd worked for her company for over 15 years. And when she went off to have her son, she was able to negotiate flexibility with them. So she was working 3 days a week for this company that she'd worked for a very long time, but she wasn't happy. So she felt stuck. She felt as though it wouldn't be possible for her to find the same level of flexibility in a similar role. And so when she came to me, she was feeling frustrated and feeling like she knew she didn't want to be in this same position in the next year or the next 2 years, and wanted to be doing work that made her feel fulfilled. If she was going to be away from her son, she wanted it to feel worth it. And so she made a change, and she went through this process that I'm about to share with you. And recently she landed her ideal position at on a part-time basis. So now she's working for an organization which is much more aligned with her values and makes her feel good about the work that she's doing. And she's able to still leverage her expertise that she built up over 15 years. So as we've said before, there are 4 steps. And here are the 4 steps. So I'm going to give you the overview of them, and then we're going to dive into them in more detail. So the first is that you really need a clear vision of what you want life to look like first. And the reason why I'm saying life is because often when people think about, well, what role should I do next? What they think about is, what role should I do next? And they're not necessarily thinking on a higher level in terms of their lifestyle and what they actually want life to look like. Because when you start there and you think, okay, well, what type of day do I want to be having? What type of week do I want to be having? What type of environment do I want to be working in? What type of people do I want to be around? Then that's a much different approach than saying, well, what type of job should I go for? So when you start with the way that you want to feel and where you want to be and the environment you want to be in, then you can work from there and start to drill down and say, well, what are the types of roles that would give me that? What are the types of roles that would give me that lifestyle? Because when you have the lifestyle that you desire, then you're going to feel far more fulfilled in the work that you're doing. So the first thing is getting that clear vision of what you want life to look like. That's number 1. The next is to really get clear on what your strengths and your values are. So the key to really feeling fulfilled is to be doing something where you are leveraging your strengths and where you are able to work in an environment or in an industry that's really aligned with the values that you have. When your values are not met or are not aligned, that's often where you can find discontentment. And when you're able to work to your strengths, it means that you're working in a way that comes naturally to you. And often when you're working in that way, you can be far more productive and feel far better about the work that you're doing. Third is to conduct market research. So when you're deciding to switch roles or go into a different industry, it's important to do some research and get really clear on what the role looks like. Because if you're not from that industry, you haven't done the role before, you might just think you know what it's about, and what you don't want to do is to switch focus and spend a lot of time in making a transition only to get into in a different area and realize this isn't it either, this doesn't feel good either. So doing your research and doing your research in the right way is really going to help you as well to make sure that you're going into the right new direction. And then the last thing is to job search strategically. So it's really easy when you're searching for a role, you're looking for a role, to just dive into to looking and spending a lot of time that might feel like wasted time. And so we're going to talk about how you can be making sure that your job search is strategic as opposed to just something that you're doing because you think that's what it is you should be doing. All right, so let's talk about step 1. So create a clear vision of what you want life to look like. And here there's a quote: our life is what our thoughts make it. So the way that you think really impacts what happens. The way that you think really impacts the actions that you take, and then subsequently the way that life looks and the things that you do. So really thinking about your thoughts and thinking about, okay, is this what I want? Why do I want it? Get into grips with that can help you when you're mapping out what the vision is for you. So with this, I just want to talk about a couple of trends that have been happening over the past few years that are useful to think about. So when you're thinking about your vision, sometimes people can limit their vision and say, well, this is what I'd really like, but I haven't really seen many people doing that. So should I be pursuing that? Or this sounds great, but is it really realistic? And so thinking about these trends could really help you to combat some of those what we call in coaching limiting beliefs around what is possible. So one is that women returners is high on everyone's agenda. So you probably know that the government announced a while ago that they were making a huge investment in supporting women back into the workplace, because there's been studies and there's been a lot of research that shows that there are a lot of women who are not in the workplace that could be, if they had the right support. And there are women who have spent a lot of time building up their careers and educating themselves to a high level, only to then not be in the market because they don't feel like they can find the right types of roles, or the flexibility isn't there if they have taken time out to care for children or for loved ones, or parents. There's a barrier to re-entering the workforce. So everyone's talking about how we can be combating that and how we can be tapping into this huge pool of talent, so that we are filling roles and that we are getting people into jobs that they're going to excel at, and also companies able to take advantage of this great talent pool. The other thing is that people are just talking a lot about flexible working, and there are a lot of recruitment agencies that are popping up that are far more receptive to flexible working requests and to part-time working. So this is a screenshot from a Facebook group called Flexible Working for Mums Like Me, and this group was set up earlier on this year. And if you see at the bottom left-hand side of this picture, the number of members of this group, so there's over 15,000 members. So these are women who are joining this group because they want to find flexible roles. So within this group, people post jobs, people post what they're looking for, and it's a hub of activity for people who are looking for flexible working. So the fact that we have this group that is this big and has grown that big so quickly demonstrates that there's such a need for flexible working. And then also there are jobs that are being posted in places like this for people that are looking for them. There's another group which is very similar, and this one's called Careering into Motherhood, and this has almost 3,500 members. And again, it's similar, people posting in there what they're looking for and are being matched with jobs. And then here I just wanted to share with you my podcast, so the Careers Beyond Motherhood podcast. If you look at the bottom, it shows you the amount of downloads. So there's close to 9,000 people have downloaded the podcast and have been listening to episodes about how they can navigate their careers beyond motherhood. So it's just showing that the focus for a lot of people is how they can make it work, as opposed to thinking, okay, it's not possible, I'm just going to have to stay at home, even though that's not what I want. So we are moving in the right direction in terms of awareness and people recognizing the possibilities that are out there. This should have said trend number 2, apologies. So more women are creating their own flexibility. So where people aren't able to find the flexibility that they want, a lot of people are looking at ways that they can leverage their skills and expertise that they gained before. So this is something that is relevant to me as a lawyer, but it kind of shows the direction that we're going in, especially because the legal industry is normally behind the curve in terms of innovation. But recently, freelance solicitors have been given the green light to go ahead and practice on a freelance basis. And so you don't necessarily need to be tied to a firm in order for you to practice. And so it's allowing people who want to work on a more flexible basis to do that with their legal expertise and their training, as opposed to having to go in and work from a law firm or in an in-house environment. They can actually go out on their own and work as freelance lawyers. And there's lots of different industries where you can take your expertise and work in a freelance capacity so that you can have the flexibility that you desire. And then also the rise of the mumpreneur. I don't know how much I like this word, but essentially it's the mum entrepreneur. There's been a lot of research to show that a lot of mums are starting to start their own business and thinking about how they can go about going out on their own, and that's becoming a lot more common. And there's been lots of talk and discussion about ways that people can do that, and there's support in lots of different ways for people that are saying, okay, I want to start my own business, how do I go about doing that? So that's another trend that we're seeing as well. So in terms of the vision, if you're thinking, well, what could I do? There's so many possibilities. So don't limit yourself in terms of that vision, but really think about, well, what would I like life to look like? And then we work from there. So step number 2 is to know your strengths and understand your values. So when I talk a lot about leveraging your strengths, and I actually did a webinar on this last week, when you know what your strengths are, it allows you to maximize your productivity, because you can get more done and achieve more in less time. So we are hardwired to focus on the negatives. We're hardwired in appraisals, in discussions, to talk about what we're not doing right and how we can improve those things, and that's all well and good, and it's always good to have that awareness. But if you focus on what you do really well and try to do more of that, and look at how you can be using those strengths to really move forward, then that is a key to feeling far more fulfilled. So there's a company called Gallup, and I think he's a doctor. I'm not sure if he's a doctor, but someone called Don Clifton, and he has developed the StrengthsFinder Assessment and done a whole load of research with organizations around strengths and how people use their strengths, and the difference that it makes and the impact that it makes. And they found that when people are playing to their strengths in the work that they do, they are up to 6 times more productive than people that aren't. So if you are somebody who is naturally a people person, you're naturally someone who likes to present or to connect, if you're able to do that in your day-to-day job, you're going to feel far more alive and happier than if you are trying to learn spreadsheets and that isn't something that you like to do, or trying to get really technical and that's not something that comes naturally to you. So if you can start to think about, well, what are my strengths and how can I be using them more? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to switch roles. You can do something that's called job crafting, and you can look at the role that you already do, look at the result that you need to get for your organization or for your clients, and see how you can be using your strengths more in that particular circumstance. The other thing is to this is the point about being more productive. The other thing is to think about what aligns with your values. So what kind of values do you have? What's really important to you? And if you can find work that's aligned with that, then again, that's going to add to the level of fulfillment. So if we go back to the client that I mentioned earlier, Nicola, she's really somebody who she's really passionate about the environment. She's really passionate about saving the environment, about doing as much as we can to reduce the amount of plastic that we use, and to just have a friendlier footprint on the earth and the world that we live in. And so when she was thinking about, well, what type of role would I want to go into, we talked about, well, what type of organization would be the type that you want to work for. And so she came to the conclusion that she wanted to work for an organization that was doing something to make an impact for the environment. And so when she was drilling down and putting together her checklist of the types of roles that would be good for her, that's what she put down, and that is actually what she ended up securing a role in. So she works for an organization that is very much involved in environmentally friendly projects and sustainability. And so that is part of the reason why she felt so great about taking the role, and felt like it was truly aligned with her personal mission in terms of what she wanted to achieve in life. So if you can do that, if you can think about what your values are, what's important to you, and you find a role that's aligned, then that's going to help you to feel really good. And that's a key component to finding work that you love. This is a quote that someone shared about the importance of playing to your strengths, as I said before. So you can obviously focus on your weaknesses, but when you focus on your strengths, then you can really, really excel. Okay, so we're moving on to step 3. I think I had someone else join the webinar before. If you have any questions as I'm going through this presentation, then please do feel free to post in the chat below any questions or comments that you might have. Okay, so the next step, this is a really important step, is to validate your options. So when you have decided on your vision and you say, okay, well, this is what I want life to look like, and then you started to think about, well, what types of roles would get me there? What types of roles are aligned with my values, and how can I be using my strengths more? You might come up with a short list of the types of roles that you'd want to go for, or the types of industries you might want to switch to. But then you need to go through a validation process, because not everything is going to be suitable. So you might have a really long list, and so your starting point could be that you go through that list and then you tick off the ones that definitely aren't ones that you would really want to pursue, and then you might have a short list. And from that short list, what you want to then do is start looking at research. And when I say research, it really is about you going out and finding people who are already doing the role that you're considering doing, or who are already in the industry that you're in, and connecting with them and having a conversation and finding out what they do. So what you want to do is you can go on Google, of course. You can use LinkedIn, which is an amazing resource, which I'll be talking more about in a little while. But what you want to do is speak to people who are doing the roles that you're considering. And there's so much power in having a conversation, and it doesn't have to be long. It can be 20 minutes, it can be 15 minutes. But what you want to do is reach out, and you'll be surprised how willing people are to answer your questions and to help you when you're considering a change in career direction. But when you're getting on the phone with these people, or when you're reaching out to them, what you really want to find out is what do they do on a day-to-day basis. So what does their day look like? What are the things they like about their role? What don't they like about their role? And what are some of the key components to being successful in that particular area? So, is there certain courses you need to have done, or education you need to have, or background you need to come from, or people that you need to be connected with in order for you to really break into that industry, or secure one of those roles? And so what that's going to do for you, that research is really going to help you to decide whether this is something you want to pursue. Because sometimes from the outside looking in, you can look at a role and say, oh, that looks brilliant, I'd love to be an MC, or I'd love to switch and be a graphic designer, or I'd love to get into politics, whatever it is. But when you actually speak to people who are in it, what they say in terms of their day-to-day might be very different from your idea of what it is. And I can testify to that. So when I was thinking about going into my legal career, I was very much swayed by legal dramas and Ally McBeal and television programs that I'd watched. And I had an idea in my head about what it would be like. And then when I got into practice, it wasn't like that. It was different. And so what we want to prevent is you spending a lot of time and energy going through a transition, because changing career direction is a transition, and then getting there and saying this isn't right for me. So do take the time to do that research and speak to the people that could give you that insight. Before we move on to step 4, the other thing with the research, that you can do research before you're speaking to people. You can also just do general research about the industry and read up on it and find out about the types of roles that are there, what the job specifications look like, what they're asking for. All of that type of thing is what you want to be doing to make sure that it is something that you want to pursue. And then step 4 is to be strategic about job searching. So I love talking about this, because often people's approach to job searching is, okay, I'm looking for a new role. What have I done before? And then perhaps looking for something that's similar. And people will get their CV, perhaps update it, and then they will start firing off their CV to recruiters and applying on job boards. And that is all well and good, and that can be part of your strategy. But the number one most effective way for you to find roles that are suitable and roles that are going to allow you perhaps the flexibility that you want is through your network. Now, there are so many jobs that are not advertised. People tend to, in organizations, before they advertise, they're likely to speak to people within their network or people within the organization and ask if they know anybody. It's much less risky for you to hire somebody who's been recommended than to hire somebody on the open job market. And so a lot of people tend to do that. And so if a lot of people do that, that means that you as a job searcher or someone who's looking for a role isn't necessarily going to find out about a lot of these opportunities that are out there. So the way that you can get to know is to talk to your network. So be really open. If you're at the point where you're really searching and you're looking, speak to people and let them know, because you never know who your network knows. And there are circumstances where someone might be at a dinner party or just having a conversation and mention that they're looking for someone. And if your contact knows that you're looking and you've described to them what it is you're looking for, they can say, oh, I've just spoken to so-and-so and they're looking for something similar to what you've described, and then they can perhaps introduce you. So there are countless examples of people who have landed a role because of a recommendation, or because somebody has forwarded them a job spec because they knew that they were looking for that particular role. So again, I talk about that same client that I shared with you. The role that she got was a role that came about because a friend of hers had received a notification, one of those notifications you get by email from a recruiter, and she saw that it was a role that her friend would be interested in, and she forwarded it, and then my client made the application and then got called for interview. So it is so important that you start with your network. So talking to your immediate network, and then you want to be going a step further and looking at LinkedIn. So here I'm talking, this is a picture showing people networking and sharing with one another, but LinkedIn is an amazing resource. So I talk a lot about LinkedIn because it's been great for me in terms of expanding my network as I grow my business, but it's also great from a professional point of view in terms of connecting with potential opportunities and jobs. And so people tend to use LinkedIn as though it is an extension of your CV when it's not. When people got onto LinkedIn at first, it felt as though it's a professional network. You should just share what your experience is, and that's great. You should share your experience, but you can expand on it so much more so than you do on your CV. But it really is a huge rich database of people, and these are professional people who are on this platform because they want to make connections. They either are looking for people to join their teams, they want to expand their teams, or they want to do business. And so being on LinkedIn and really expanding your network on LinkedIn can expose you to opportunities. So an example is if somebody in your network had somebody they were connected to who posted that they're looking for a particular person to join their company, you could potentially see that through the way that the algorithm works and how second and third connections can see comments that are made by people in your network. So the more people you're connected with, then potentially the more opportunities that you are being exposed to. So of course there is the job search function on LinkedIn where you can go directly and search a job on there, search for jobs on there, but it's also a place where you can be effectively and strategically networking. I won't go into too much detail because this isn't a webinar about LinkedIn, but you can there's search functions that you can look up. So if you're looking for a particular role, you can look for the hiring manager there. You can look for their title, then you can search for them, and you can look for different people in the industry that you're going into and start to look at the activity that they have on LinkedIn. What are they posting? What are they commenting on? What are the hot topics in that industry? And so when you then get to go to interview, then you have some really current information to talk about. You're able to draw on current news, information that's being shared amongst peers within that particular industry, and that's really useful, especially if you're changing direction and you're coming from an industry that's different from the one that you want to go into, or even if it's a different role, a different company that has a different culture to the one that you've gone that you come from. So definitely use LinkedIn as a base for you to do your strategic job searching. And of course, if you need more help with figuring out your job search, then you might want to consider hiring a coach or somebody who can help you to map out that search so that you're finding and you're targeting the right roles. And then once you've found the roles and you're doing that, then you're able to think about then, okay, how do I sell myself? How do I prepare for interview and all of that stuff? But the first thing is to find the right roles and to be moving in the right circles so that you're connecting with the people that can introduce you to those types of things. So to recap, what we've covered is the 4-step process is really to, one, create your vision. So as I mentioned, there's a trend that more women are returning to the job market and realizing that there are opportunities to work more flexibly. So create your vision. What is it that you want? How do you want your life to look? What type of week do you want to have? How many days do you want to be working? How often? What type of environment do you want to be working in? What type of people do you want to work with? All of those things is what you need to be thinking about in your step 1, because there's a famous author called Stephen Covey, and he says that it's really important. He's the author of a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of those habits of people who are really successful is that they start with the end in mind. So if you don't have a vision and you don't know where you're going, then it's really hard to get there. So your very first step is to make sure that you're clear on what is the vision for your life as a working mum or a working professional. What do you want life to look like? Then your second step is to align your strengths and your values with the roles that you're looking for. So when you can spend some time figuring out what your strengths are and get clear on what your values are, then it's going to be easier for you to find a role that you love, a role that's fulfilling, a role that is one that lights you up, that you enjoy doing. The key is really to be leveraging your strengths and working in a way that is aligned with your values. And then the third step is to do your research. So once you've whittled down and you've got a list of potential roles you'd want to go for or industries you might want to switch into, then you need to start speaking to people who are doing the thing that you want to do. Have conversations. Don't be scared to reach out. People are really open and willing to answer questions. So do that. Do reach out to people. And as I said, you can use LinkedIn as a way to reach out because you can search people's job titles and find out from them. You can see from their history what they've done, and so you can reach out to them, and then also you can reach out to people in your network or ask for introductions if you know someone who knows someone who's doing the thing that you would like to get into. So do your research that way. You can also do the traditional kind of internet research to find out background information about the industry or the role that you're thinking about going into. And then step 4 is to be strategic about your job search. So don't waste time just firing off applications here, there and everywhere, and don't waste time just scrolling job boards before you've really taken the time to tap into your network. I would say tap into your network first, and then you can be doing all of those other things as well. But if you think about it, if you've tapped into your network and you've got multiple people that have the fact that you're looking for a role on their radar, then you've almost got like a team of people that are looking out for you, as opposed to you on your own just behind your computer applying for roles or trying to connect. And this also applies, I should mention, is if you are building your business and you've decided to go out on your own, then it's the same thing. Like, tell your network what it is that you're doing, because they may well be able to refer you clients. They may know people that would like your service, and so make sure that you're being open about what it is that you're doing, so that the people that you know can help you. They can help you to get towards your goal in terms of the clients that you want to attract or the roles that you want to attract. So question is, can you do this? Can you find work that is fulfilling for you? Can you go from where you are now, if you're feeling perhaps a bit stuck and unsure about what to do next, to finding work that you love and that is really fulfilling? My short answer is yes, absolutely. But old ways of thinking can often prevent you from achieving your potential. So if you are thinking it's not possible, I haven't seen anybody do it in my industry, or I haven't seen anybody in my immediate circle manage to juggle work and family life in the way that I would like, then all of those types of thoughts can stop you from moving forward. So I'll give you an example from my in my experience. When I was working as a corporate lawyer, I was thinking, I don't necessarily want to go back to my corporate lawyer job and be working the long hours. So immediately I was thinking I have to leave the law. Like, I was thinking I'm going to have to do something completely different. Perhaps I'll go into coaching full time. I had all of those things going through my mind. And then I realized that actually there was a way that I could work more flexibly and still continue my legal career, which is what I wanted to do. And so I've managed to achieve that. But I had to switch my thinking from it's not possible to actually be open to, okay, instead of saying I won't be able to do this, switch it to say, how could I do this? And that switch from I won't be able to how can I allows your brain to start thinking of opportunities. Consciously and subconsciously, you start thinking of ways to make it happen if you start saying, well, how can I make it happen, as opposed to it's not going to be possible. So I want to encourage you to switch the way that you think or that you're approaching it if you're in a place of feeling stuck. So in saying that, will you commit to the new way of thinking? That's a question for you to take away. So before I'm just going to transition to talk to you a bit more about the steps that you could take going forward. Before I do that, let me know if you have any questions in the chat so far. No? And it would be good to know as well, like, who here is thinking about making a change or has recently made a change in their career direction. Type in the chat and let me know if that is you. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So right now, I would say you've got 3 choices depending on where you're at. So the first choice for you would be to do nothing. So continue where you are in your current role. Victoria, yes, just left your corporate job to go full-time self-employed. Yes. That's awesome. That transition is a scary one, but also an excited one. So I hope you're in the phase of feeling excited about this now. So yeah, choices. First is to do nothing, so continue where you are. The next is to go it alone, so try and figure out the transition to building out the life that you want to lead and the work-life balance that you want and the work life that you want. So you can go ahead and figure that out on your own. You can take the information that I've shared with you on this webinar and those 4 steps and do that work. So it does take some thinking about, okay, what is my vision and what are my values, what are my strengths, and what do I really want, and who should I speak to? So you can go through all of those steps on your own and still make some progress, or you can let me support you. So I'm just going to share with you just for a few minutes now the program that I have, my membership community that I'm in and that people are in, and getting support around this huge transition that many are making, and this quest to finding fulfilling work beyond motherhood. So I'm not going to take too much time. I'm just going to talk you through what's involved in the Careers Beyond Motherhood Collective. So this is a monthly membership community that's open to ambitious women who are looking to build their careers and build them in ways that they are feeling good about the work that they're doing, that they are feeling fulfilled, whilst they're still having time to raise a family and do the other important things in life. So within the Careers Beyond Motherhood Collective, we have what we call the Success Path. So this is really diving deeper into the framework that I've shared with you and helping people move through the different stages. So going from being a visionary and really knowing that they know that you know what type of career that you want, to then being able to plan it out and step by step saying, okay, what do I need to do to create that? And then we go further to say, in the master juggler phase, like, how do I actually juggle the demands of work and family life? So I've got the job that I want and I've got the role, but there's also so many other aspects to my life. So how do I juggle that all? So we talk about that in stage 3 of the Success Path. And then we move to stage 4, where you have kind of mastered all of that and you become a leading lady and you feel like you can step up in your role within your home and outside of your home and really lead and make an impact in the world around you and in the industry that you're in. So that's the Success Path, and we take everyone through, and we do that through these trainings, these short bite-sized trainings and worksheets that people work through to go through this success path. And so who has this helped so far? So there's different women out in the community already. So we have mums who are on maternity leave who are seeking flexible working arrangements, business owners growing their businesses and making strides with doing that whilst raising their family, mums who are seeking to balance the demands of a busy career with managing her child, mums who are seeking to find alternative routes. They've decided they want to do something different, not quite sure where to go, and mums who are looking for support and community. So women who are saying, I don't want to do this alone, I want to connect with like-minded women who are going through very similar experiences to me, and so those are ladies who are in the community as well. So this is one of our members. So this is Katie. She's here with her daughter, and she's also pregnant at this time. So she's now had her son, and we recently had her in the community where she was sharing that she's on maternity leave and she's in the States. So she has a short maternity leave of like 3 months. So when she joined the collective, she was 2 months in, and she was starting to think about heading back to work. And she was concerned because she wanted to have flexibility, but she hadn't seen it done in her industry. So she's an instructional designer, so she works in software, and she wasn't sure how to approach the conversation. So we worked together and worked with her to give her some suggestions about her flexible working request, the things she could say, how she should go about speaking to her manager, things she should make sure she should mention. And it was great because she came to the group. We have monthly group calls. She came to the call and had her issue, and everyone was able to share with her, and I was able to give her some advice and some guidance. And then she went away and had her conversation with her boss, and managed to secure the flexibility that she wanted. So she wanted to work 3 days a week, and she was absolutely shocked that they said yes. And it was great to see that her being part of the group gave her the confidence to be able to go away and have that conversation. And this is just a screenshot from what she shared with us when she came back to the group, because we have a forum. So she came back to share with us that she had an update. She talked to the director, and that they said yes, and that she'd be able to work on a part-time basis. And she was thanking everyone for their suggestions and their support. And it was good. The last point that she makes was that from what someone said, it gave her a real light bulb moment. And I think that's a key aspect of being part of a community, when people can get support from other people and get that insight from somebody else. So yeah, so the community, who is it not for? I would say it's not for people that are in a place where they want to just hope for the best. It's not for people that aren't ready to embrace change. It's really for women who want to take ownership of their careers and move forward, and boldly move forward. So I'm just giving you a few testimonials of people that have talked about their experience with joining the collective and being part of it. So a lawyer mum who is in our group was talking about how being part of the collective helped her to realise that it is possible for her to juggle work and family life, and for her to carve out working mum life in a way that works for her and her ideal working mum life. So she worked through that, so she knew what her vision was, and then that helped her to then be walking boldly in it. And then we have another lawyer in the group. We have a few lawyers who is building out her own practice, and so she talks about the support that she gets from the collective members and having that sounding board, and says that she'd highly recommend it to other members. So I'm just going to quickly run through with you what is in the collective. So we have core trainings that I mentioned that take you through the success path. We have a monthly group coaching call, and this is the opportunity to come with any specific issues that you're facing that you can share with the group to get feedback and to get insight to help you to move forward so you don't feel stuck. We have some practical skills training, so we do things like talk about negotiation skills, about LinkedIn, about approaching building your client base if you're building out your practice, or job searching, so really practical things, building out your CV. So we have those practical trainings every month. And then we have guest expert sessions, so we have guest experts from different backgrounds and talking about different topics that are relevant to your working mum journey. So we have experts who talk about, we've had in the past, we've had a coach talk about living a more gentle life. We've had ones talk about parenting and how you can be having better relationships with your children, about nutrition and how you can be looking after your body. We have an upcoming expert next month who's going to be talking about finances and managing them effectively. So we have a wide range of experts coming in to talk to us about different topics. And then we have a private collective discussion group, so a private forum where we can come together, encourage one another, learn from each other, and have a space that is filled with like-minded ladies. So what you get as part of the collective, so there's the core Success Path training, the monthly group calls, the guest expert sessions, skills trainings, and the private discussion group. So the total value of everything that is offered in the collective is well over £2,000. And the question is, what is a working what does it mean to you to be able to have the working mum life that you really want, and what is that worth to you? Because really we have all that value, over £2,000, but you can get started and join us in the collective for only £30 a month. So I want to make this resource really accessible to people, and I think it's an important resource to be able to have that guidance, the step-by-step, and also the community. And so it's £30 a month to join the membership, and there's two options. So you can either pay £30 a month, or you can go for the annual option where it's £300 a month, and then you get two of those months free. And yeah, that's basically it. So if you did want to join the collective and you did so in the next 24 hours, then you would get a free LinkedIn audit from me. So if you think you want to be using LinkedIn more, and you want to turbocharge your networking skills and results on LinkedIn, then this would be beneficial to you. So I normally charge for these audits, but if you join the collective in the next 24 hours, then you'll be able to grab yours for free. Okay, and that's it. That brings me to the end of the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing. And yeah, that's it. Do you have any questions at all? If you have any questions about anything I talked about, do let me know. Barry, did you have anything you wanted to ask at all about anything we talked about, or anybody else? No? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us for this webinar this evening. I hope you found this really useful and you're able to go away and apply some of this as you think about your next steps in your career. I really appreciate you being here, and I will speak to you hopefully soon.